Tell me if this sounds familiar. You see somebody else working on a project that sounds really cool and something you might be interested. They're making a lot of money and you're thinking to yourself, I could do that. So you mentally prepare yourself for getting started on this new project and you start, but then you just don't finish. Or you don't even start at all. And you're sitting there and that idea worm is just burrowing itself into your head and you can't figure out why you won't start. I believe there's at least one of 5 different reasons why you haven't started, won't start, won't finish. But there's good news because I know of one way that will counter all of those reasons and will get you back on the path of doing something. A couple weeks back, I told you that I was going to start a new book project, and basically that project is me taking some of the digital elements that I've created, putting it in a book form so that I could then use those pages in my art projects. I'm currently working on a small art series where I'm turning pieces like this into these pieces that you see here. By the way, those are all for sale if you're interested. Link in the description. While you're headed down there to the description, make sure you hit the like button because you may help get this into the hands of somebody else who needs it, kind of like you. And you want to help other people too, right? Let's work together. So anyway, people are asking me through comments and other places, hey, how's that new book project coming, Dave? And I feel like sometimes people ask me that or say that because they're thinking like, oh, he hasn't started it, he hasn't done it. But guess what? I have. Look, it's right here. Do you see that? It may not be in focus, but do you see that? What you saw there was the body of the book, and I'm also working on the cover at the exact same time. And soon I'm going to have that published onto KDP. It's going to take a few days for them to process it to make sure to give me the thumbs up. If it does go through, then I'll have something else to share with you in the very near future. Fingers crossed. And the reason I bring it up is because I said I was going to do a thing. I need this thing, and so I built this thing, and now I've got to just keep following through until I get it done. And no matter what, whenever I finish a project like this, I always get people coming back at me like, Dave, how do you just do these things? Actually, we're going to talk about the 5 reasons why you don't do the thing and the one thing I do that makes those 5 things not matter to me at all. Reason number 1 why you are not doing the thing is that you lost interest. Maybe you got into this project and you thought to yourself like, this is kind of cool, and you're moving along, but then at a certain point you're just like, nah, I don't know, it's not really my vibe. Or maybe it was because you were chasing somebody else's idea of success. You see somebody maybe here on YouTube that says, hey, I made thousands and thousands of dollars by doing this thing, and you thought, I want to make thousands and thousands of dollars too. You start that thing and then you find out you don't like it, and then you stop and you quit and you put that project on a shelf. And I can't necessarily fault you for that, except for the fact that you may not necessarily be telling yourself the truth about why you stopped. You may be fibbing on yourself, and the remaining 4 reasons might be the actual truth. Reason number 2 why you told yourself you couldn't finish that project is you didn't have the skills, or more likely, you didn't want to take the time to go learn the skills. So you got yourself into a project, maybe it was a book project like I'm doing, and you just didn't quite have the technical prowess to get it done. Oh my God, it's so overwhelming, I can't handle it. Back before I self-published my first book on KDP, I didn't know how to build books for KDP either. I mean, yeah, I was a graphic designer, but even years ago, I didn't know how to build books then either. I just learned it. Yes, it took me a lot of time back then to figure it out, but the learning possibilities today are even greater now than they were back then. So you have no real reason to say that you can't do the technical thing unless you just don't want to. And if you don't want to, it's okay. I'm not going to judge you, and you definitely shouldn't judge yourself. But you should have a really good long conversation with yourself to figure out if that's really the motivation behind why you're not doing what you're doing, or it's something else. The number 3 reason why you didn't finish that project is life got in the way. I'm a work from home dad. I've got an adolescent kid who's into sports, and he's got school, and he's got summer camp, and he's got all these things. I'm pretty sure this has been the busiest summer of my entire life. Still building this book, and I'm still doing this art project, which is going to kill me. I've had to sacrifice other things, but I recognize that if I want this book project done, I've got to push all of that other stuff out of the way. If you are not pushing other stuff out of the way to finish your project, well then maybe it's just not that important to you. Again, maybe that's not really the reason. Number 4 reason why you didn't finish that project is because nobody believed in you. Maybe you shared that project idea with other people and you just didn't get the response back from them that you expected. It's entirely possible that the reason that you're not feeling the support from others is because they're too worried about their own stuff and really honestly just not worried about you right now, which goes to the point that shouldn't be the reason you don't do the thing. It's one of the reasons why you should do the thing, because I'm gonna show them. I published my first podcast, my first book, my blog, my art series. Everything I've done has always kind of had this tinge in the back, a little thing in the back of the brain back here saying, I'll show you. That's just how I roll. But maybe you should roll that way a little bit too, because it's possible that the reason you didn't follow through with that project isn't because of those other 4 reasons, but the 5th reason. You're afraid. Afraid of failure, afraid of losing money, afraid of rejection, afraid of being seen as a fraud, afraid of what other people might say, afraid of actually succeeding. Yeah, that's actually a thing. Fear is a liar. Fear will lie to your face to keep you on the couch. Fear will tell you that you are no good, that you cannot win, that there is no success for you. And when fear is pushing back at you like that, it looks like a big, hairy, scary monster. It's got big, gnarly teeth and green eyes and growling at you going, "You can't win! You can't win!" Sidebar, what usually happens after I finish filming these videos is I go back into the office that I share with my wife, and I go and I start to laugh at myself of all the stupid things that I do while I film. And she laughs at me because I constantly laughing at myself. When I laugh at myself now, all I'm thinking about is my wife thinking how much of a dork I am. And you know what? It's okay. I ain't scared. I ain't scared because fear is not a big, hairy, green-eyed monster. It may look like it, but when you get up close to it, it's essentially a cardboard cutout. Push back against the fear that you have around starting these projects, and I promise you that fear will fall away every single time. The number one tried and true way to get past any fear is to go. Go! Acknowledge that the fear exists, recognize that it isn't as tough as it thinks it is, and then you go anyway. If you're gonna fight fear, you don't just jump up off the couch, grab the remote control, and start swinging at it. It knows that trick. It knows that that is false bravado, and what's likely going to happen is all it has to do is growl at you again, and there you are back on the couch. So if you're gonna go, you go with a plan. Let me show you what I mean. We're doing this. Let's talk about my book project again. That's where I was. That's where I want to be. No book. Book. Of course, life is not this linear. If we go in with a plan, we try to keep it as linear as we possibly can. We build in micro achievements into our plan so that we know that we can get to a certain point, stop and rest, get to a certain point, stop and rest, get to a certain point, stop and rest. And every single one of these points, we're fighting back against fear because you get to this point, yeah, it's a little scary, but then we push. And then we go to this point and it's scary and we push. And we get to this point and it's scary and we push, and so on. The very first thing we need to do is what kind of project are we doing? Start with the concept, and then once we have the concept, we have to actually write something. Once we've written it, then we have to design it or have somebody design it for us. Probably going to need to edit it at some point. By the way, if you're building an actual book project with like words and stuff and not just pretty pictures like I am, then you're definitely going to want to edit here and there. Once we've had it designed and edited, then we package it. For KDP, that just means that you're putting your PDFs together so that you can do the next thing, which is upload. And once it's uploaded and KDP gives you the thumbs up, then you're published. Couldn't see that? There it is. This is still a gross oversimplification, and there may be other aspects within all of these nodes that need to get done. These are bullet points. You have your concept, and then you have this list of things that need to do. And the first one gets done, then the second one gets done, then the third one gets done. Then you move over to the right stage, and you get the first one done, and the second one done, and the third one done. Eventually, you found your way through the map all the way to the publish button because you did not stop. You kept going. Maybe you said you were going to try and build it in a week and it ended up being 7 weeks, or you said you were going to build it in a month and it ended up being 6 months. And that's okay as long as you got it done, because the next time you do one, it won't be 6 months. It'll be 3 months, or it'll be 1 month. The reason that you finished faster isn't because you've learned more skills and you're just a little bit better at it. I mean, yeah, that might be some of it. What really is getting you through this thing faster is you've pushed past the fear. And so the next time you went through it, it wasn't as scary. And then the third time you went through it, it wasn't as scary. And you've recognized that the fear was fake. And here's the best part. Now that you've learned how to fight fear for that project, any other project you do, even if it's not this same type of project, you know how to push back. Let me show you something. Race, race, race. That's you. And this is your comfort circle. This is where fear exists for you. And when you push into fear, it usually pushes back, right? But what if you pushed forward? That's you finishing your project. And most people think that what happens with fear is this. Like a pimple on your psyche. But that's not it. Every time you push outside your circle of comfort, this happens. The circle gets bigger in all directions, and anytime you tackle new projects, you've got that new circle. And one of those projects is going to push you even further out. Eventually, your comfort circle looks like this, and fear becomes a non-factor. So now the last question I have for you is that, are you going to keep hanging out on the couch, or do you want to come hang out with me? Because I'm up there. Let's go.